it's not that different, or it wasn't that different according to her experience. She witnessed a lot of people who she worked with, Americans, and she would tell me stories about like women who were abused by their husbands, who had little to no rights. And so she really raised me. And to today, if you ask my grandmother, she's like, don't get married. Don't have
So
kids.
that's something based on her experience, right?
That's the mentality, and that's the mentality that my grandma, that's why I have
Right.
that kind
And
of
I
like,
wonder if everybody,
I have to work. I have to be something, and I have to have my own stuff.
right.
All right. From her experience, she was like, yeah, don't do that, because in my time.
Yeah. Fairy Queen had her hand raised, and then back to you, Rachel. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to hop off of like what Natalia was saying, and I also wanted to add in just another general thought. I think one thing that we're not saying, which is, I wonder if this is true, but it seems like it's true, especially like post the election. I think the economy has hit everybody really hard. I think that everyone has like suffered a lot under the economy, and a lot of people are wondering about how they're going to make ends meet. And I think a lot of people, both men and women, though I think both men and women are reacting to it differently, are reacting to like the strains of the economy differently. And so it seems to me like when you're looking at like the boss babe versus the trad wife response, that seems to me like one thing that nobody's like talked about that I wonder if there's something there to it, is that people are just exhausted with working. Women are exhausted with working. Men are exhausted with working. You know, they're exhausted with having to work long hours to be able to sustain and take care of their families, but also having to come home. I wonder if that's like maybe part of it. I also wonder too, like there are a lot of women like saying that they want to go like back to the trad wife. A lot has been said about that. One thing that concerns me about that, which is I am also concerned with the same thing with the snail girl, that seems to be more not so much about like going back to tradition. That doesn't seem to be more about trying to live a wholesome, healthy life. That seems to be more about like pulling away from not going out into work, not going out and like turning your book, not starting your business. You don't want to do that. And like the excuse that's given is, well, because I want to like be really, because I don't think that's the reality. I think a lot of people are choosing to like not go out as much, not interact with people. They're choosing to stay home instead of going to church, instead of going to bars, instead of going outside. And so this trad wife thing, I think for some people is an excuse for them not to go outside and to not interact with people and to not have to fight it out in the world, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm not like judging people for their choices. Like some people, like they do like find more happiness like staying at home at, like with their families, and some people they do find a lot of happiness throwing themselves entirely into work and never leaving, right? But the reality is, like, I wonder how much of this is like an excuse to just basically avoid like socially interacting with people. I don't
maybe.
I don't know how much of like this is actually a return to tradition and how much of this is actually an excuse to avoid socially interacting with people outside of the house, which is like would be my concern. So
That makes sense. All right, I can see that. Rachel, back to you.
Yeah, the question I wanted to ask Natalia was, when you say your grandmother didn't have a choice, I need you to explain. You say she couldn't work.
She couldn't work. She couldn't.
According to who? So like legally, are you saying there was a law?
According to her, she couldn't go out to work.
No, I mean, who was telling her she couldn't? The cops? Were the cops coming and saying women are not allowed to have a job? Like,
she didn't have the opportunities. If she were to apply for a job, she wouldn't get it because they would tell her a woman's place is in the house. I cannot. You can ask her yourself.
Okay, I could, but I
don't want to debate, Rachel. I'm just telling you.
Fair enough. Just a kind reminder. This is just a chill night. We're not debating.
Sure. Okay. Well, I'm not debating. I'm simply saying that's incorrect.
Can you please?
I think. Hold on. I think what this is a personal experience, right? We can't negate personal experiences. If that's what she was told and informed of, we have to accept it as it is, right? So for whatever, that's what she was giving for her reasoning why her grandmother was telling her to go on and get a job.
I understand that. But what I'm saying is, it's my turn. Let me just talk for a second. I don't want to.
You cannot negate my grandma's stories. You cannot negate her experience.
I'm not. What I'm telling you is you cannot come on a live show and say women were not permitted to work because that's factually incorrect.
Hold up. Let me translate. I don't think she's saying that every woman was not allowed to work. I think just in her grandmother's case, like she couldn't seem to find the
That's what I was
opportunity to
asking
do
her
so.
to clarify, and she got defensive. She got defensive and emotional and started freaking out.
Rachel, I was telling you a story of my grandmother, why she made sure.
Yeah, I understand that.
Exactly. I'm not saying
I don't need to hear it again because I heard it the first time.
About that woman in a
I think we can move on knowing that we can accept that it was a personal experience and that's what it was.
So
we can
my
accept that and
point
move
is
forward.
that
with
women were legally allowed to work, and we've got to stop repeating.
Hold on, Natty. Hold on.
We've got to stop repeating lies, because women will just pop off and say stuff and not be specific, right? So you can't say things like women didn't have a choice, women couldn't work, women didn't have rights. What rights did your grandma not have? That
a lot of rights. According to her, she felt that she did not have the same rights that her husband had, and we cannot negate her
rights
story.
Are legal.
Come here and negate the story that my grandmother and her experience. You don't even know her. You don't even know her.
But what rights did women not have 100 years ago?
I don't think that's the point that Natty was trying to get to. I don't think she's making an overall generalized statement as to women didn't have rights. I think maybe in her grandmother's scenario, because it did sound like she was going back and forth between the States and South America, right? So maybe that became a piece of it as well. And because you said she only had a second grade education, so she was a little limited in terms of her abilities. And if she's doing that and being a mother at the same time, maybe she felt limited in her own way.
Right.
It's not our story to negate.
We have to be responsible. We have to be responsible, because this is what gives all women a bad name, and it drives me crazy. You can't say women didn't have rights.
I don't think she's saying that. I don't think she's saying that.
If what you mean is your grandma felt a certain way, then say that.
Don't put words in my mouth.
I think we're taking what we're taking here, Rachel, is a small experience, and you're applying it as if she's saying it as a generalized statement. I don't think she's saying it that way.
No, it's the opposite. She's saying that because this was her grandma's experience, that you can't tell me women back then didn't have rights, and you can't tell me that women back then had the same opportunity.
I'm not saying that. I'm just telling you
she's not.
It was based on my grandmother's experience. She made sure to raise women who were self-sufficient based on her experience.
Right. So
the
question, stop for a second. The question, ladies, was why are women now feeling the need to push forward and either do boss babe or trad wife or so on and so forth? Natty was offering her personal experience as to why she felt the need to not get married, focus on her career because of her own grandmother's experience. She's not applying it in a holistic, that like all women were experiencing this. She's just giving her own personal experience. And that's what she did preface it with, was the reason why I did it is because XYZ. So it's just a personal story. That's all. I don't think it's like negating the rest of the women in those days and their ability to work, because we all have recognized that women have been working for a very long time.
Exactly.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah. So, ladies, the floor's open to you.
I just wanted to offer something else too, like about trad wife versus boss babe. There's a Twitter user. Her name is Michaela. She's she's not a huge content creator, but she's a conservative woman. Like she lives in California. She is a software engineer, and she frequently talks about like the men that like she dates and like the sorts of like what she looks for, and like how college, like having a college education, like was really, really important to her. And one of the things that's really interesting about a lot of the content that she posts is that a lot of people criticize her and say that she's ridiculous for the standards that she has. You know, people like all the things that you remember, like you could probably remember seeing from a lot of different podcasts, right? But one of the interesting things that's interesting about looking at like her page and looking at a lot of the stuff that she said is, she said one day, she said, look, a lot of these conservative guys just do not understand what it is to be the daughter of immigrant parents, okay? Of first generation immigrant parents. And what that means is that if you are the daughter or the son of a pair of first generation immigrant parents, you are expected to go to college, okay? You are expected to have your own business. You are expected to make money. And you're not expected to do that because your family is super duper woke and super duper feminist, and that's not the reason why, okay? The reason why is because if you fail at school, if you bring home anything less than an A, you have shamed the family name. If you don't go to college, and if you don't get a degree in nursing, and if you don't get a straight 4 point when you graduate, you have shamed the family name. You have shamed your family by not choosing to do this. And so sometimes when I hear people talk about like the dichotomy between the girl boss and between the trad wife, I sometimes think that they're only talking about a very specific demographic of people because I think that